I did reach out, we'll call it to order, but I wanted to say, why don't we look at what Brian Walsh has put together for us first, because I did reach out to him with some questions, and then I spoke to him at lunchtime today. And he said he would be sending, he can't make it because he had another meeting right now. Maybe he's at Topsfield. I don't know, but he has another meeting, so he's a popular guy. So here is, okay, current trash model, 64 limit overflow, Groveland households served. Now do we know, we're still working on that number of households, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then total tonnage 2024, that's for everybody, right? Yes?
So he has the total tonnage for Groveland and then he has the total state tonnage.
Oh, that's is that the average state tonnage then? Okay. And then the 2024 is the Groveland per household. Wait a minute, I thought we were high, now we're low?
No, we're high because
What? I'm looking at,
statewide communities with 64-gallon carts have average of
what
1669.
is the 1933?
We're at 1749. That's total tonnage, but I don't understand the number that he.
That doesn't make sense what I'm looking at from here.
No,
You know?
we're still above. Statewide communities
No,
with
but-
64-gallon carts have an average pounds per household of 1669,
Yeah.
and we're at 1749.
Yeah, but how
So
did he
we're
do,
over.
how did he do that number for 1933?
That
Is that a,
is
Abbreviation?
Wait, is the one pounds per household and the other one's tons? Is that what we're looking at? Pounds versus tons?
oh,
Yeah,
1,000
pound, and then the
tons?
two small, and the comparison numbers are also in pounds,
That's in tons, total tonnage is in ton,
tons, but everything else is in pounds.
Mhm.
right?
Right, okay. So that helps. That makes more sense now. So digital cost estimate, I love this stuff. For the purposes, we'll assume that tonnage in Groveland would mirror the 64-gallon statewide average. $103 tons. Okay, $186,000. Okay. If you have the 35-gallon. Oh, wow, that's like $40,000 less. Okay, that's in modified paid fill plan. Okay, we're still absorbing all this.
Sure with that.
Should we have this printed out?
1768 households at 80% at 1,300 pounds equals this many.
Oh, he's assuming that 80% will go for the 34, I guess.
35, yes.
Yeah, 35, sorry, 35. And that another 20% will want the extra cart.
Right,
Yeah,
and that's,
and that's how that would play out if that's how it happened. And we would get grant support for this type of model. This would be considered pay as you throw if they have to pay for the second cart. So we would be eligible then just for the first carts to get some help.
Only if you did the 35.
Right, but we'd be eligible for the first round of 35s that everybody's guaranteed to get some reduction on that cost.
You could get up to 66,300.
Yeah, I know, and that's nice. That's a nice chunk of change. You know, when you're just buying carts, you know, at town meeting, they even question, $115,000 for a bunch of carts, you know. It's, it's not that exciting a purchase, so to get.
I'm excited about it.
Last time.
Well,
Huh?
it did, yes.
Oh, yes, it did.
Yes, and
Not one single no vote.
Can I
and
ask a couple questions?
did you ask? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
Why don't you say your name for the?
My name is Kai Spasad. I'm one of the town residents. The 35 or the $66,000, that obviously is a grant from the state.
Yes.
How much is the actual cost to go ahead and get 35 gallon for every single household in Groveland?
And that would be a Rebecca question. Do you have
I
that?
think it's about 100,000.
Yeah, the 35 costs less. We had those. Let me think if I still have that slide. When Arthur presented the cost thing on the slides, remember we did have all that. We're probably now gonna have to pull all this together again.
It was just a couple of meetings to.
Yeah, it wasn't that far ago. Really.
You know, I talked to somebody who started composting because of all of these discussions.
That's great.
I thought so.
So,
The
And the
35
state-
gallon was 114, 114,249 was one of the quotes we received.
Okay, to get 135 for every single household.
Correct.
And the state basically gives us just over half as a rebate,
And only on the 35 gallon.
only on the 35, not on the 65. The concern that I have, and one of the reasons why I'm here is because 35 gallon for a household, especially a household with kids, is not enough.
Okay.
It's just, I know a lot of people in town.
right, and we're setting up to provide for that. That would be the second part.
So the second cart would be a yearly fee, and then you
Yeah.
can get a 65 for the second, right?
No, 35. We're not gonna exceed, well, we're gonna slightly exceed what we're allowing now by 235s. But when you figure in the offset of the reimbursement on the first set, and you figure in that we're not gonna buy a second one for every single household, and I think financially will make sense. We do have to kind of create a table and cost it out completely, because this is a brand new model, but actually Topsfield is just implementing this model with Mello as their carrier or caller starting in June. And they put together, really nice comparisons of what they could do, what other towns around them are doing. And when you start looking at all that, you start to get the picture. You start to realize that it's not just Groveland, it's everybody who's doing the curbside pickup. That's the differential there, because some of the towns around us don't,
Provide any of these services.
well, they don't provide it through the tax rate. Yes, they don't provide curbside pickup through the tax rate.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the proposal on the board right now is that we're gonna go from 165, which was down from what it was previously, obviously. We're gonna go from 165 down to a 35 with the option to buy an additional 35 every year.
No, you don't buy it every year. So this is the proposal to kind of put in the right frame is we're at 232 gallon. That was what we put in the contract, 232 or 164. And that was down from
Unlimited.
a prior contract that just said 4 barrels. I mean, they could be, and we watched, especially during the pandemic, the trash tonnage costs was exceeding
Oh, yeah.
everything in the
We're seeing
budget.
A lot.
Well, yes, but it was also a matter too that we didn't have any
There were no
frames.
controls.
There were no frames to the program that other towns have already had. We're probably one of the last towns to start kind of doing this, but we want to do it right. So recognizing that households are used to the 232s or the 64, yeah, you could have the 235s, which equals a little more than the 64.
So most households that I've talked to, they're used to like 265s. That's the vast majority.
265
That's not.
for trash.
Right,
Trash.
and they're not supposed to be doing that.
I understand they're
Yeah.
not supposed to be doing that
Yeah.
as of 2020, whenever the new rule got passed, because it wasn't being enforced for a while.
No.
Now it's being enforced.
Which, yes.
Which it should be, but it's being enforced on some routes, not all. I can tell you that
I
right now.
know, I'm not happy with how they're handling.
Which,
Yeah,
I mean, I agree, it should be uniform,
it
right?
should.
But I guarantee you, if we go from what people are used to right now down to a strict, every household's getting 135, there's gonna be a lot of upset people on this.
Have you watched any of our meetings or been to any of our previous outreach attempts? Like, have you come to anything?
I'm here now.
But
Okay.
bear in mind,
So-
it's not just a 35-gallon trash container, it's that big recycling container as well.
Yep,
So we're increasing the amount of recycling that's gonna go in that, decreasing the amount of trash that's gonna go in that. The idea is to exponentially increase the amount people recycle, decrease the amount of trash people dispose of. And I can tell you, I was a family of five. I've been a family of five. I was a family of five
right now.
for 20 years in town.
Yep.
Now, granted, my boys are out. My daughter is leaving to go to college soon. So we will be just two. But for the full time that we've been here, we have recycled and put out one 34-gallon trash can every week since we've been in town.
Yeah, and that's,
So
and
it's
that's fair.
doable.
I'm not saying it's not doable, I'm just saying that where I stand, and one of the reasons why I'm here is because obviously it's been a lot more strict lately, and I appreciate that. I'm going and I'm buying bags of Auchan, and I'm trying to stick within the guidelines that we passed years ago, but haven't been enforced until recently. I know from talking to many people that I know in town that I'm friends with, they're used to putting out their 264s or 265s or whatever they are every single week, and it's getting picked up every single week. Obviously, that's going to change. I'm just letting this committee know if we go from what people are used to right now down to a 35 with the option to buy another 35.
If I could just say,
And we get this, but from a financial point of view, and this is basically my function here,
Yeah,
what's gonna make people angrier? Going from 264s to 135, or having to have an override for trash collection of $500,000 or more? Which one do you think is gonna make people angry? I think an override is, because this is what we're heading for. The cost of trash collection in this state has now become unsustainable without some serious actions by the communities that need the trash pickup. No longer is recycling such a commodity that the towns make money on this. The Asian communities aren't taking as much as they used to. So it leaves a problem for the communities and trash collectors. What do we do with it? Well, we charge the communities more money to take the recycle. As far as the tonnage goes, we're losing landfills daily, which means now that has to be carted out of state, which is an additional cost. So at the end of the day, this whole trash cost as a function of the budget it's beyond unsustainable. It has gone beyond critical mass. And if we don't address it here and now, and some of the options, granted, may be a bit radical. I've got a family of 6. Seldom do we go beyond 132, only in holidays, breakfast, things like that. But from a financial point of view, my pocket, your pocket, his pocket, her pocket, that's where I'm coming from. We can't afford this anymore. We just can't. So what happens?
And I can understand that. What I think makes more sense, sitting where I am, is allowing townspeople to have I know we're not purchasing every year, but every year we'd be paying a fee for an additional barrel. Instead of an additional barrel of a 35, why not make the additional barrel be a 65? I saw on the chart there, it's $103 per ton, right? Of trash. And on average, 165, you're getting less than a ton throughout the
okay,
year.
I want to address this let me address this from the perspective of the select board, from where we sit. So if you looked at the history of our trash, management of our trash, quite honestly, in this town, there's never been a committee that's worked on it like this committee has. There's never been an in-depth study where we got a state expert to come in, and we've had other experts come in and fill in the blanks about the why. How come we have to do this? Do we really have to do this? We push back on every avenue to say, okay, what is the real facts here? And the fact is that the last landfill, I believe in Massachusetts, is expected to close in 2030. That's not too far away. The cost of just the trash, picking up the tonnage and the recycling, which yes, we get a little bit lower rate on it, but we're still paying on the recycling. Those costs are difficult to budget for, because we can't get them precisely. We know the pickup costs, but we don't know the tonnage costs. And we don't know the recycling costs because that's a market-based volatile thing. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to over budget for the year, which means we take money from the general government, from the schools, from the library, from the council on aging, from the Board of Health. We take money that could be in those departments and we have to pad that one budget. Because we can't budget for it. There's no way, it's too volatile. So you say 103 now, but easily in 5 years, it could be 120 or more. It would not surprise me at the rate it's been increasing. If I've looked at the contracts around us and the jumps in just the pickup costs from like 200,000 jump to now 600,000. And if you keep on manual, if you can get anybody to do it, it'll be $1 million just to pick it up. These escalations are scaring us, you know, at the budget, at the top level, because it means, okay, even if you put an override out for trash, you know, and I know that there's a lot of people right now with this economy that are gonna vote no. And guess what? We still have to pick up the trash. That's a Board of Health problem. We can't say, okay, nobody's trash gets picked up, figure it out, right? So what would happen then? Shut the library down except for 2 days. That'd be, you know, some of the first things. Shut down elder services. Right, those are the first to go. Then where do you go next? Go back to the school. We can't afford our assessment. For the police and the fire department, we can't afford the budget we gave you. You know, we have such a lean staff in this town. They're phenomenal, but they're lean. We don't have the ability to cut and offset that kind of volatile cost. We just don't. And people are not going to vote override. So if somebody says, well, I'll vote the override, I'm glad for you, claps, congratulations. There's at least 800 other voters that are going to vote no on every override in this town. If you look at our history of overrides.
I think the other
They
thing,
just, you know, so I think what we're trying to do is make a model that will work, will provide you and people with less trash the ability to get rid of your trash. Okay, you'll have the overflow bags, you'll have at least the gallons you have now.
Options to get more.
And then also, you know, the other things that we're still looking into, we started a little pilot on the composting, but there's a possibility that it might be less expensive for someone to opt to compost than to buy the extra barrel. And I can tell you, because I've been doing the composting and paying for it, because I didn't want to talk about something that I didn't know personally. How does this work? My compost bin is picked up every 2 weeks. It's full, it's heavy. My trash barrel is the lightest thing in the world now. It was like a surprise to me that it was so easy. They give you the bin, they give you the bags. Of course, I paid for it, you know, it's not a phenomenal cost, but if that cost was less than the additional fee for another 35-gallon cart, that household would then be helping us. And that's something worthwhile because they're diverting things out of trash and they're lowering our tonnage. But every town, most of the towns around us, I'm looking at the comparison charts, do have a fee outside the tax rate to help support the fluctuations in the tonnage costs. So that's kind of that's going to be a tough reality, I think, for us, but.
I think giving somebody two
You know.
barrels, one a 35 and a 65 doesn't really meet the goal of what we're trying to do is to reduce the tonnage in the trash.
I'm not saying give to.
No, I know what you're saying, even
I'm
giving them
saying
the option of that.
Give them the option.
It doesn't-
and
it
looking
doesn't
at
meet the
chart
goal.
and
Yeah.
the research shows that one barrel.
Yeah.
That's counterproductive to what we're actually trying
I
to do.
think we should
That's
try to find the
reduce
dates of the meetings that he should watch on video.
Right, but also the other thing I want to point out,
know
and
which
and
dates
this
it
was
was?
brought, let me just say this, this is brought forward by both John and Rebecca, that if we were able to get the recycling bins out to everybody first and see what that impact, if any, has on tonnage, people might find that they think they can fit within the 64, and some might even say, yeah, I could do the 35 or 34, whatever it is. I keep fluctuating on that, but right now, we all only know what we have, you know what I mean? So I get it. Like, I know what I throw out, and I know I don't know where else to put it, but in the garbage, right?
It's definitely gonna be an adjustment period. We get that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we're not gonna make that decision. We are an
Yeah.
advisory board. We make a
Right.
recommendation to the select board and then they make that decision.
And then negotiate the
Their
contract.
contract, right?
Right? Okay, and so what the state, this is our expert from the state, has presented us with these materials, because we keep asking him for more information, because he has access to, you know, all of the towns in the state, and is able to convert things into, you know, savings towards the town. So you might look at that and say, oh, you know, $30,000 is not that much, but in our town, you know, it's close to the budget for some of these departments, right?
And look at the first line there. If we assume a 5% yearly increase,
That's
5%,
conservative.
that's double what we can increase based on Prop 2.5. Where does that money come from?
It comes from people that are willing to pay for a 65 barrel every year.
Well, some towns are allowing for more than 130, like get more than two. I don't know that we're gonna go that route. We haven't really charted this out and this is our first step towards being able to price things, because you're not the only person that's come in and said, hey, come on now, you know, why do we have to do this?
I
So-
agree we have to do it. I'm not trying to prove.
No, but
to
some
do
people have
anything.
said they-
And
Well, yeah.
Some of what's being said back my
Yeah.
way is making it sound like I'm not appreciative of what's going on.
No.
I am.
I don't
I
feel
very
that.
much so
But
am.
I feel like we need people to believe that there's a need to do a change. And I know maybe you believe it, but I think there's other people
agree
that
with
still
that.
don't believe.
But also try to
there
understand the
needs to
goal
be a
to be
change.
accomplished, which is less tonnage, right? So now think about this. We give you the option of purchasing or leasing another 64 gallon.
Yeah.
We can't control how much tonnage goes in there. For example, if you fill that up with water, it weighs a heck of a lot more than if you filled it up with feathers.
Agreed.
So the tonnage now, you could double the tonnage on the on what you throw out. And we have no control over it. It's a small lease fee on the extra one. So it's counterproductive to the whole goal of what we're trying to do here financially and environmentally. It just doesn't work with it. And I know it's going to be a hardship. Listen, I've got 5 kids. I've got 4 kids, 5 grandkids.
Mhm.
They're over all the time. We figure it out. We've over time, we've diverted much more to recycle than to trash. We've thrown as much down the garbage disposal as possible. We've tried to make the effort to make the changes necessary to make this all work. And it's not going to be easy, like Dave said. It's going to take a whole village. And if we're going to turn this around and we don't have to go for an override, which is not going to pass, and then we have to cut services, which is not going to go well, this is the options we have. I mean, listen, I'd like to give everybody 296 and know that everything's going to go into outer space and we're all going to be good. But the reality is the reality. And the reality is we can't afford it. And we've got to do something. We've got to do something now.
All right, I wanted to just get through, because I haven't yet seen Brian's information either. So what we'll do is we'll go through it, but then we'll get it hard copied, I guess. Would everyone want a hard copy to take home with them and
That'd
look?
be great.
Yeah, because
Well, how
he-
many pages is it?
I don't know. I'm waiting to see.
Well, what is it? A Word document?
3 pages.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
okay, because he's up close enough to see. I don't have my contract.
Just email it to me. Then I don't have to burn a tree.
Okay, but you could
What
have
do
a
we
hard
think?
copy if you, it's up to you.
If we want one, we can print it.
You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
print it too. Yeah, so this is,
Double-sided, black and white.
okay. He did that. Is that the end of it there, the last thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so those are the questions I think I put to him as to what else, blah, blah, blah. And
Yes,
I mean, we
received.
don't have a good, the one thing we don't have a good answer for is why, when Waste Management recommended to us to go to the 232 barrels and we said yes, and we signed a
35?
contract to soon,
232s.
No, it was 232s that we signed a contract.
Oh, in 2020?
And that was
One.
all the estimates in that contract, all the tonnage estimates, everything was based on that.
Hmm.
Why they then proceeded to just, it almost seemed like a little ignore and then a big ignore. Because initially materials were sent out to all the residents to tell them about this. We did do that, I know that, right?
Why it didn't work, you mean?
Well, why Waste Management didn't do what they had been contracted to do?
Why they didn't adhere to the contract,
Yes, exactly.
wasn't in their best interest.
Right, I
Yeah,
think we
we-
talked about this at meeting
Right,
number one.
yeah. So we've been kind of
Profit business.
framed into a bad frame, because I think if we had this for the past 3 years going along, where people had to buy overflow bags, which are readily available, they're easy to find,
It wouldn't have solved the problem.
it wouldn't
If
solve,
They'd still continue
No,
to
but
pick it up.
Bill, I think that people would be more,
Amenable.
not amenable, no, not even amenable.
Agreeable?
They could, no, they might still be angry about it, but at least they would have a system where there are 232s right now, which unfortunately, I just drove past a house in Washington Street where they must be moving or something, and the whole front yard is filled with trash. I don't know who's.
Out for collection?
Yeah,
Just the yard is-
no, that it was out for
We hope
collection,
so.
and I just can't even take it anymore. I'm thinking, wow, do people think that when they go to move and they need to clean out their whole house, that the town of Groveland should pick up the tab
Not only
for
that, they put literally everything
mean,
into trash
seriously.
bags.
That's
Well,
like.
I was with you
that's-
in 2020. One of the things that wasn't presented to us by Waste Management was going to an automated pickup,
Yes.
which would have cut the cost right away.
I know,
Now,
yeah,
driver never has to leave the cart, right?
right,
That would have also controlled the 2 + 2 + 2, 32 gallons, because
Yeah, right.
tribe's
true.
not getting out.
No,
That's sitting there on the sidewalk.
I mean, I think what it comes down to that we're not talking about again is public education and how much time we're gonna have to spend on public education.
well, we
Because
can't,
look at all the attempts we've made at public education and yet we're still getting people in asking the same questions.
yeah, I mean, I think there's still a flow of information. I mean, obviously, communication nowadays gets undermined in social media. You have to know that.
There's misinformation.
Yeah, so the town has a Facebook page. And I think if we start to steadily use that, instead of posting notices on the town crier, which I've been guilty as well as anybody else on the board, post them only on the town website and just announce on the social media that you should go to town website and check out this new event.
Well, and
Don't post the event there.
enforce a social media
Yeah,
policy.
Yeah, because that's where the town can put out accurate information, and if you give people in the habit of having that tab easy to find, that's where they'll go when they want to know what's going on in Groveland.
Well, beyond even social media, because not everybody's on Facebook. I mean, we're gonna have to figure out some pretty ingenious ways of educating the public about all the venues for not putting trash in trash. You know what I mean? Like
But,
using the textile bins,
Oh, yes.
using compost,
well,
using
I'm using it more now.
how to recycle, what to recycle, where to go for recycling
Management tries to
information.
throw out old shoes, I'm
I know, but
thinking
how
out
do
of the
we
dump.
teach everybody
But
else that?
That's 1 in 6,400.
I know, but
It's, we've got to do a better job of messaging of, hey, there are alternatives. And here they are.
So how do we do that?
Show this website up to them. Topsfield has done like a really, really nice website with like an index on the side of all the things you might want to know. And I'm wondering if we should start something, oh, look at it like that. It's gotta be the town's website, right? But it's specific to this whole question. It has the commonly asked questions. Now, see on the side there, so they're starting in June of this year. So we're still a year out. They have when you click on the bin, they actually have a diagram showing why this is much better than what you would buy at Home Depot, talking about the reinforcement, the wheels, this lid, that this is made for the automated pickup. I mean, I've been clicking all the way through it going, wow, this is really good. And then I looked at the size of their committee and they had like 30 people on their committee. You know, I mean, okay, so
We're gonna get 30
they
meetings.
had a few more hands on the committee. So, but, I'm wondering, you know, if we have residents that are interested in helping with the process, we could gain some additional members and, you know, maybe help get stuff like this researched and up, because this is a pretty easy to use website. And I
Can
mean,
Brian help with this as part of his tech hours?
I'm sure he can help us get information if that's what the committee wants to do.
Right, but we'd have to, like, as you build it, like they have, where did I find it? The comparison to other communities, that chart. I don't want to use theirs, I want to make our own.
Topsfield said they had more trouble convincing people of a large recycling container than a smaller trash,
Yes,
which I thought was interesting.
yes, yes.
They say why?
Where did you get that information from?
Deb at Town Hall.
Looking,
Deb?
Why that is. Seems,
She was saying she was
Counterintuitive.
surprised about it
Yeah.
too.
yeah. What they say in there, if you click on the recycling, what they say about the size of the bin is they're providing the larger bin. And if you,
for recycle waste.
I think that's over there on the side, yeah, I think it's there. I click through a lot of stuff fast. Yeah, so you're gonna get what they are putting out unless you can specifically say, you know, that I have this huge disability reason that I can't deal with this or whatever. And Boxford, are they doing bi-weekly? Yes. So did, I think Boxford is as well, maybe, and they did
Yes.
say there's significant savings in that as well. So,
And we went with an even bigger cart.
right, so for the taxpayer, this is a win, and for the people that are in condominium developments here, it's a double win because they're paying for this without getting any of it. But it looked to me like something like this that starts to put, like, we've done the frequently asked questions on flyers and stuff. You've told them in the newsletter that you did. In fact, I brought that.
You got the survey.
I mean, we've got the survey, we've got, where is it? We had this at one point. This was pretty pathetic, but it was a beginning, our little overflow bag flyer. And then, of course, ta-da, right?
Gosh, wow, that's amazing. Do you need a copy? Did you get one?
I'll take one.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but what I'm thinking is that we've got to centralize these kind of documents, simplistic, pictorial, you know, this is this. And the one that caught me, I'm just trying to see, I thought I saved it, was, do you see anywhere that says comparison to other towns? I don't see it. It might be in I first looked at the working group and there's like 30 of them, so it wasn't in there. Is it in the guide? It's probably.
Parameters of waste containers?
Maybe in the automated curbside collection tab. Try that. I wasn't able to click through everything at once.
Increase
Oh, no, they have a
efficiency.
nice little video. That's.
Wow, this is such a great website. They must have a website designer.
Oh, look
on
at
there.
that. That I did print out. Isn't that cute?
Wow.
Current model, new model. I love that. Pictures tell it all without a bunch of sentences.
Well, so they went down to 136, they were limiting to. Now they're at 135.
Yeah. And
Plus
we-
overflow bags, plus leasing second extra thing.
I get for 50 and there's an annual fee, it looked like.
Okay.
Yeah. I wonder if it was, but no, I thought it was Topsfield did the surrounding towns, but maybe it was Boxford. I was clicking through stuff on our website last night. And then I kept clicking after work today.
That's interesting that they put a deadline until Wednesday, May 7th.
For what?
An additional.
If you decide you want to purchase additional.
I imagine they want to
Well,
make a
you said
bulk
to order.
purchase.
To get the order in, I mean, yeah.
Volume gives them price breaks and they don't want to order onesies.
Why not just order a bunch of them so you have them on hand, order 100 and then if you need to order more, you order more.
Probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Good purchasing guy with,
Right, but,
with my volume discount break.
Yeah,
50,
exactly.
100, what is it?
Right.
so we have our shared website. And we do have on the town website, we have a tab, right? but we don't have anything like this set up inside the tab, right?
We do not.
Right,
We're also moving to a brand new website, so.
yes, so
we
there'd be
won't
no.
Have this done until at least after July 1.
Okay, well, no, that's
Still,
not that
that's
far.
kind of exciting.
That's not that far, but we could start to,
Same web hosting
Construct
company,
some of
just
it.
update it now.
No, it's a new website.
Who was it?
Revise.
like the history of waste collection, I think we should document some history of what's gone on in the town here. I mean, just so people understand how we are, where we are, how we got there. Look at that, I know the committee, God.
Brian Walsh.
Yeah, I
Hey, I know
know,
one
they have our
person.
Brian too, yeah, I know, right? All those people.
Like, you know, it's funny, they had representatives from the
Trash hauler.
trash hauler.
Well, that,
Well,
that,
maybe after they already
Awarded the
Yes.
contract.
they went
contracted,
out and they got.
because
bid.
otherwise that wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
Or be strict conflict of
So
interest.
it wasn't- they didn't do a formal bidding process.
They did a request.
So they did like a scope of services that they sent out to the
Yeah.
haulers. And then once they established what they were looking for, they signed a agreement with Mello that would allow them to refine their program. So it wasn't something that.
Like
they
an
went out to-
RFP?
So they didn't do that. They went out with just a regular scope of what they were looking to do. And then once they had an under a memorandum of agreement, then they went and they negotiated or negotiating their contract with all of the details that you're seeing here. What the pickup looks like bi-weekly, all
Was
that
Mellow
stuff.
their hauler anyway?
No,
No,
So
they're
they
different.
changed completely.
Their hauler got built, got bought out by Republic, I think they said.
Oh, so it was JRM.
Yeah,
Mhm.
was it? Okay, JR then. Look at you know them all.
Yeah, he does.
Like the
Knows all the
phone book
things.
of.
I know a few things, yeah,
Around the block.
So what I'm wondering is
once or
just
twice.
for Rebecca, and you're probably the best person to tell us this. We could put together, as you say, the spreadsheets, the history, and kick all that around, but for a timeline, like what I was reading is that they did that gathering of proposals or something, and then they signed some kind of a intention letter, maybe in
that memorandum of
January,
agreement.
right? And then they did something more, I think, in March, but they still did have to fund it at town meeting in April, which they just did. So how they started, this committee hasn't been working as long as we have been, I don't think.
So they funded the contract at April's town meeting?
At this town meeting, we'll fund the contract that starts on July 1st. Yes, I believe so, if I read it correctly.
I just want to make sure. I
But they issued a letter of,
That's exactly what I was saying. So
Intention.
they went and they proposed a scope of services and they went to Mello, Capital, Republic, Waste Management, and they went to all these companies to have a basic conversation. This is what our project scope is. They liked what they heard from Mello, signed a memorandum of agreement or a letter of intent with Mello.
Right.
And then they went and they finalized the details, got the funding, and now they're finalizing the contract with Mello to move
Okay.
forward for July 1.
so if I'm understanding where we are right now, the stumbling block for us is that we have to formalize what is the best, what you would put out there, for what are we
We need a
looking?
scope of service.
We want to put out.
Okay, so when do
together,
you-
We need to
almost like
come
it's
out with
our
our
statement of work.
recommendations and the board, the select board has to accept them and say, yes, but would it be too early now to go out?
I mean, we need it between now and,
No, so the intent right now and what the scope should be is for the committee to decide exactly what it wants. And bullet points is completely fine as to what size carts do you want? Do you want to move to bi-weekly? Those types of specifics
Okay.
that we can then use as discussion points to say, how much would you charge for this? Where does this fall into your routes with other communities? How far
Okay.
away is your plant from this plant? Does it make sense? All that stuff, and then we can start to have those conversations. We've already had informal conversations with all of the haulers. So they're just waiting for us to provide some type of scope so that they can provide some type of proposal so that we can then start to have those conversations and narrow it down to see what we would like to do and if we would like to mimic what was done in Topsfield.
Mhm.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd like to see Topsfield scope.
I know,
And they
exactly,
provided
like,
that to us, so we do
Okay.
have some of that documentation that we can share with the.
right,
community.
and the other thing
Okay.
I don't know is, they have said in the literature that there were significant savings going to the bi-weekly
Recycle.
recycling pickup. but I don't know what the quantity of those are.
I think we can also
We don't
pick
know.
up significantly with the right hauler to do it in 4 days instead of
Yeah.
5.
I think
Yeah.
you can pick up significantly doing it in one day,
Yes.
not 4,
That's what I want.
frankly.
We're such a small city,
I
town.
think you can do 2,800.
You send enough trucks out?
But these houses aren't close together like.
Sorry,
you find-
Arthur said that he was working in Tewksbury, they had 10,000 homes, they did it in a day.
Yes,
I know.
yes,
How many
Bill.
trucks?
I don't know.
Meanwhile, we have trash out
All
all
those
week long.
homeowners have enough trucks.
In 3 days would be
The
great.
whole,
just
the
get
sole
Monday
reason
and
to have
Friday.
it in 4 days or 5 days a week is because they want the trucks working in Groveland 5 days a week.
And what a pain in the wazoo
So
every
that should be
day.
one of our bullet points. We want 1-day pickup.
Maximum 2, I would say, I mean.
Well,
One
ask for one, and
Yeah.
you know they're gonna push back.
Right,
But let's see how much we can shrink that
right.
timeframe.
I want to ask for, I want to push
Because
for
all
one.
this adds up to savings.
Dan, what do
Absolutely.
you think
Right.
about reducing the number of days of pickup? Does that,
Oh, it's worth asking.
okay, how should we ask for it though?
1 day, we want 1-day pickup. That's that's the bullet point.
Yeah.
Boom. A statement of work or a scope of whatever is we want 35-gallon automated pickup, 96-gallon recycle bi-weekly pickup. We want that automated too. We want 1-day full town collection. We want, what else? I mean, just throw it out there.
We don't want extra charges for the overflow bags because people already paid for them. Well, what was it? Waste Management said they were gonna charge us
They
for
did?
every single
Oh,
overflow
well,
bag.
a dollar a bag, right? Is that what they said?
That's like,
Well, yeah, but people are paying for them, so why are we paying on top of that?
well,
That's,
that's what I mean.
yeah,
People pay
I
for the
agree
bags.
with you.
Yeah,
Put it
Because
down.
it's, if you put them on top of the barrel, that just goes like this anyway. It's only if they have to get out of the truck to pick up the bag, right?
what Waste Management says, if the barrel is even open that much, they can't pick it up with the,
That's
Automate.
bull cookies.
well, no, one of them had a pictures, might have been Boxford. It showed if the top is up, they're not gonna pick up the
I,
bag.
I
but
know that.
We know.
But that's,
who did we talk to that said that that's fake news though?
It's a policy, it's what the town would like to put forward, so
No,
you
but
can't
it-
add additional bags on top of it, but you have to work that out and negotiate that with the hauler.
Okay,
So it's a contractual negotiation that you can enter into.
Okay.
Would be good to see what their scope was,
yeah,
because it's easier to model something with.
And their
something.
scope is literally bullet points that is less than a page. So
Yeah.
it's not a
That's what
very
we're looking for.
lengthy, like, you know, document,
Reinvent the
it's
wheel.
just the basic minimum.
You throw the net into the ocean and see what you catch. You
If we have
find somebody you can work with.
Boxford and other communities, it might be helpful to see those too.
Right,
Merrimack, well,
But
Merrimack,
everybody, that's the issue, everybody does it a little bit differently, so Boxford, they had gone out for a bid and then they decided not to go out for bid, but they had already placed out a bid, so there's just different ways that communities have negotiated their contracts. So it really kind of depends on what the community wants to do, that's the only issue, is that when you compare yourself to another community, you're different, you have different, so
Right,
like, it's not apples for apples, it's a little.
yeah, but if they put out a scope in their bid, scope of work, I just wanna see the scope of work, I don't wanna see the whole
It's
thing.
just
Pick out
to
what
help-
we
help you
like.
Think
Yeah.
of things that you might not think of.
Right,
So we can talk to Brian and see if he can pull that out.
ask Brian.
Yeah, and by the next meeting, have a consensus on
That was a
the
interesting
bullet
thing.
points we want to put
At
out.
the meeting, Rebecca, when Lowell was talking about their new contract. And they mentioned that they put in the contract, but that they would get up to 100 new carts every year. The
really.
ones that were broken by the hauler, you know, and a lot of people said, gee, we never. thought
Wow.
about even
Add that, 100
So-
new carts per year
Up to, I think.
to replace,
Stuff
Damaged,
that the hauler
broken.
damaged.
Well,
Cars.
right, so, yeah, because most of the contracts on the new ones where it is automated, they do have a clause that said that if they damage their cart, they're gonna replace.
well, we have to make sure it's in there.
Because anything that's not in the contract is not in the contract.
ain't written, it didn't happen.
You're not kidding. Been there too many times.
And you
And
won't, my friend.
They did talk.
And I want
do
very
any food
specific
waste,
language.
you know?
Yeah.
Did they put any food waste in there?
I haven't gotten through all of the
I
materials
think Brian
yet.
said they were composting.
I thought they were composting.
Mandatorily, or,
Let's see
Well,
what-
I'm not sure.
What Brian suggested was that if you indeed wanted to put an annual fee on the second cart, that if the cost to compost is less than that, then people could be offered the choice that you might not need the second cart if you do compost.
Mhm. Yeah,
And the only thing I'll say negative about the compost is that I've been doing it every 2 weeks. In the summer, I'm definitely gonna
yeah,
switch to
don't
weekly.
do that. every
Because when it gets hot out,
Gross.
it kind of leaks, it burns through the bag. It's like, whoa, okay, this is toxic. I don't want it in my garage for 2 weeks.
And,
Live and learn.
trash car.
This is, some people already compost a lot in their backyard. Some people have composting things in their yard. I'm sure people could help other people set up their own composting center if you want to do it yourself. The only thing that gets problematic.
You mean in your yard?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just doing fruits and vegetables and.
You can only do
But
fruits
it-
and vegetables.
You know what else we
You
need?
can't
The
do
ability
meatballs,
to,
either.
to
Compost, you can do meat and bulk.
bulk pickup.
The
Yeah,
white goods or whatever, white items? Isn't that what?
You can pay for the hauling fee, but they have to have the ability to pick up bulk items.
And whoever it is needs to have a better scheduling system, I'm telling you.
Oh, my God, forget it.
It is horrible.
It takes you 45 minutes to get through to the person. Then you schedule it for this Friday. You pay for it because they make you pay for it then. And then you haul that stuff out to the curb and you wait for Friday. And Friday turns into Saturday and Saturday turns into Sunday. And before you can get them on Monday, you got to wait another 45 minutes and say, why didn't you pick up my stuff? I paid for it. And they put you on hold for another 30 minutes to tell you that they missed it. Yo, I know you missed it. It's still down in front of my front lawn now. They're brutal. So, yeah, that has to be more.
I tried to have a coach picked up
Friendly.
2 years ago. And I called Lori and I said, what's the fee? I'll call Waste Management. She said $30. I called Waste Management. They said 40. I said, I just talked to the town. They said 30. They said, no, the town told us 40. I said, I just spoke to the town. I'm on the Board of Health for the town. I said,
I'm the
they
chair
said
of the Board of
$30.
Health.
She said, well, it's 40. I said, fine, you know what? I don't. I want that goddamn thing gone. I'll pay the $40. Here's the credit card number. Just pick it up, please. But it still took me almost an hour to get somebody on the phone.
Brutal.
Yeah. And I paid $10 more than I should have.
Not
Did they pick it up
acceptable.
on time?
They did,
No, you were lucky.
yeah. And it was pouring out, so I'm glad they did.
It is, but you see, when you call up to complain, you have to wait another 45 minutes. And then.
Oh, complaint system. Yeah.
I cannot find the chart that I saw earlier. I will find it and get it to everybody. It was really neat because I believe it was Topsail because they had towns that we wouldn't necessarily have. And I just can't think of what it was under on this tab.
You know what? And
It was a nice
you
table
gotta
too.
specify, you're gonna come every Friday or every Thursday.
No, we're only gonna do it whatever one day.
No,
I
no,
have it open on.
bulk
too. I just-
pickup.
I'm trying to think of-
you're gonna come through this town every, whatever day. Pick it up, they're gonna wait 2 weeks to get this stuff picked up, right? Get it dragged out there.
Yeah.
Specify a day.
Yeah,
This should, and the other side to this whole contract, and putting in the fee and making sure that we have a structure that can survive the next 5 years will be to hopefully avoid the need for overrides on the side of town services.
Mhm.
I know people are unhappy with the school override. It's a big amount of money and it just there's nothing you can do
So
about
good.
that.
I know. We balanced the budget,
And
$97.
I mean, I saw the new budget that came out in the school. Yes, they noted that all these 200 schools aren't getting enough money, but they didn't they're not giving them the money. So the next 5 years are going to be,
Yeah.
Lean.
well, no, they're going to be the school coming back.
Clothing and
They're not
textiles.
gonna always be able to reduce
mattresses.
it. It's just gonna happen.
Like, this is a great website.
Wow. I know.
Everything we talked about on here.
Well, I like to.
Yeah, electronics, hazardous waste. A lot of people don't know what to do with some of this stuff.
I don't know what else you want me to look.
I know, I'm just trying to think in my head, like, what was Kathy doing when she found that? But it's not popping in my head. It was a nice little table. I thought I had saved it. And I obviously didn't.
Brian's presentation, you'll email it to us.
Yes, that will be emailed. Let me just look at the agenda. Can I borrow yours or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the questions that Brian gave us, I think. I think just about everything we need. The only thing we don't have is an estimate of any savings from going to pickup of recycling every other week. Maybe, I don't know why anybody would complain about that, because now you don't have to haul out to the big barrel all the time. That kind of makes it. a little
Well,
easier
because some
chore.
people really put a lot of recycling out there.
Okay, oh, yes, so some
So
towns are,
ostensibly, if you have a lot of boxes, for example.
some towns are allowing, if you have additional recycling, like cardboard, that they have a location you can bring it to. Is that something we can put in a contract, that we want to have a container at the town hall site
Correct.
for overflow of like cardboard?
Yes.
You can put
Yes.
anything you
Yeah,
want
we
in there.
want that, bingo, so that could help.
That's the great part about,
Well, no.
you were a
well,
kid at Christmas,
A town
Right.
site.
your parents said, what do you want for Christmas? You had a list this long, right? And they scrubbed it down to like 3 things. Yes, for everything.
The value of cardboard's gone up recently, so that will make us more money.
Okay.
If we can
Well,
separate it.
that's a good thing.
Now, if we have the dumpster and people
Use it.
responsibly put cardboard in.
Yeah.
Right, so how
But you
would you
contaminate it.
envision that,
What it's
would that
worth.
work like just here without somebody manning it?
Well,
Would
that's
you
the
just-
trouble now, it's all
How
wet.
would you do it?
So it's
For
right
the,
now,
cardboard?
Or would you just have a specific
So
time?
you do the bin that has the slot in it so that you have. to put it
Ah,
in the
they
box
can only
first.
put it. okay.
Exactly, so you can't like have illegal dumping. You should also choose a location that does have safety of some type,
Well, that's what
like
I'm
town
thinking,
hall.
right, yeah.
It's also contaminated,
Okay,
yeah,
so
100%.
it makes the.
right, so we can allow, if people get
Yes.
some big boxes and they want to get rid of them, they can come to the town hall. And the time, the hauler will.
You get a
take that
cardboard
as
box
well.
that has a little dab of grease on it. That's,
If you go to recyclema.com, pizza boxes are allowed.
it's not that bad.
It just
Why is
takes
everybody
liner.
so hung up on
It's
this
supposed to have
Yeah.
a liner.
I don't know.
Because it's a way, it's another way for like a bank to charge you a fee every time you do something. Right? It's a way for the hauler to charge you extra
Right.
to absorb a cost.
Okay, but according to the state, they're allowed.
Just the liner isn't allowed.
But the state didn't write our contract, so they don't care. Because if it's not in the contract, then heck, right?
Okay, and so we're gonna try and start giving you the bullets, right? And you're gonna tell us when you don't think they're any good, right? Good.
They're all good.
They're always good, right? Well, no, like one contract has indexed the increase in I don't know what to some consumer price index. I didn't think we wanted that. No, that's a little too
Not in
sketchy.
today's economy,
Don't do
no.
that. Yeah,
I think it might be West Newbury, it used to be West Newbury that did that. They just,
that doesn't seem smart.
They took a chance. How long ago did they negotiate it? Maybe, they could.
No, West Newbury's is a new contract the past couple of years, so.
I think the best idea is to put all the bullet points together and then as a group, pick the best ones. And then, form a
Why would we
consensus
have to
around
pick? Why
those.
can't we
What?
have
Because
all
it's
the
gonna
bullet
be,
points?
Well, like you said, you don't want to, if you're talking about something tied to the consumer
Oh, yeah,
index
true,
or,
true. Okay. okay,
so
yeah.
if we get the scope of works from a contract or two and we go through them,
What I guess,
decide
how do we
which ones best
maximize,
Suit us,
yeah,
agree on it, and then send that out with Rebecca to get that, to find out what we catch with the net.
right.
And from that point on, we pick the person or the organization that best suits our needs. We partner with them to go to the next step,
Oh, darn,
and
there it
then
is,
we have something constructive we can actually work with.
Yeah.
surrounding town.
how do we maximize
That's actually probably worthwhile. It's down below
make
the,
sense?
index. Go below.
our
the index.
recycling
Where's
options?
the little thing? Oh, you don't have,
That makes sense?
why don't you have the little
You-
thing? like
I just
that?
think it's
It
easier
was
to
right
see
below
if,
it.
Well, that's what we're
When
saying. We'll see a few of them,
right,
And
and
then
then like
agree
our
upon-
next meeting,
And you
we,
put that in.
cross out the ones that we
No,
don't.
it was over on the,
Read the
underneath
ones
the
we
index.
want.
That's how I
and
found
send
it.
it out.
Little, I Googled it and then it took me back to this, but underneath this was the,
I think we're at the point now where
Quick
we've got to
links.
take a step out of the
I don't
house
see it on your screen.
and start to get some feedback from some of these.
well, see what other
Organizations
people
on.
have done.
It was on the same
We'll
website
get
as the
some
trash
feedback from
people.
Mellow and
Put down just, I
Waste
just do
management.
a comparison account, because I was like, I know I saw this thing. Surrounding communities trash matrix, they call it.
What is it?
Surrounding communities trash matrix. I thought we could update it with our surrounding towns, because that's what everybody seems to want to do. There it is, yes, bingo. That's it. I just thought that was, because that has like the charges that other towns around are charging, do you know what I mean? It says whether they have curbside pickup or not, it says what size.
bin they have, trash
Wow,
bin,
Yeah.
Milton, well,
recycle
Yeah.
bin size.
Salisbury,
So we could update that.
Georgetown doesn't have curbside collection.
No, they don't. See, that's.
Wow.
Pay for curbside collection in
Yeah,
Georgetown.
you have to
What?
pay.
Or you take it to the
Oh,
dump.
You do a private, it's a private thing, you decide to do it or not, you know, the town's not gonna do it for you.
Rockport has one of those really cool places where they have, it's almost like going to a yard sale
Okay.
at their transfer station.
Oh, because you could swap.
Shop.
Yes,
Yeah,
So anyway, I thought we could update this to be relevant to our town, right? Does that make sense?
Well,
it is updated right now.
Is it, do you think that there's nothing else we have to include? Maybe us.
That trash bin limit.
Are we even in there? Oh, yeah, well, there we are.
Well, the information is current.
Yeah, I think it's very current. So we just take their thing and say, thank you very
Recycling
much.
bin size is unlimited.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 18 gallon, but it's you can use as many of them as you want.
So
Or them little totes?
Yeah.
All right.
all the digging around I've done, this kind of puts it all
Take
together in
out
one spot.
3 or 4 of them every week. It was
So do
just-
you want the links to that?
And then they get beat up.
Yeah,
Everybody wants it
Yeah.
to that, okay.
One duct tape.
what's
Are
that,
we allowed
Kathy?
to take someone else's chart and put it on our website?
Look at all
I
the,
don't think it's supposed to.
We can definitely reach out to Topsfield and see if they'd be willing to allow us to share the data, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty common.
guess
for
this is-
people-
Manchester's been
Okay,
using
this
Black
is-
Earth since.
DEP.
Yeah, this is
2014
pretty
Could
sure,
be, if
yeah.
Brian could have been very well the one
Because
who put this
the,
together.
their
Okay.
facility is in Manchester.
That's
Do you think
pretty,
this
this
is
is,
useful?
look at all the towns that use them,
Well, they have their facility. in it.
but look at all the towns that use them.
Yeah, 'cause they've sewed up the
Yes,
market,
the-
that other one's
yeah.
gone now.
Fantastic.
Well, what was the other one other than Black Earth?
Oh, I forgot the name of it. We had it here in Groveland. But they ended up giving their clients to Black Earth.
Oh,
Only 3 of them do bi-weekly recycling.
The Black Earth is,
Oxford.
the
Oxford,
open farm.
Merrimack, and
Where's-
West Newbury.
And they're all 96, 95.
Oh,
Okay.
Oxford is bi-weekly trash, that must be every other.
so for the next meeting, we're gonna get to that. I'm gonna my phone. Let's just figure that out. How are Wednesday nights any good?
It really depends on the Wednesday, but
Okay.
typically no.
Wednesdays are probably the best with my baseball.
Oh, we have to
season.
avoid your, well, how
Darn
much
it.
is the conservation mean? What?
It's the second Wednesday, but I also have
What?
staff meeting at the clinic on some Wednesdays, and I never, let me ask my boss.
Oh, it's at night? It's a nighttime thing? Yeah?
I mean, I can do Thursdays, it just knowing in advance, if it's a schedule, then I can just plan not to do anything. on
I'm
that
happy to
Thursday.
move off of Thursdays. 'cause
I can do Thursdays if we move it back an hour, so I can make practice and then fly over here.
Well, see, Thursday night
Make
is
it
my
seven.
tennis team match night now, starting for the summer. season.
Typically, what Wednesday is staff meeting?
We're going for the gold.
Trying to train a team to go into Cooperstown next year and compete in that
Wow.
week-long tournament. So we're starting with the U11s this year. We've already entered ourselves into 3 tournaments for the summer.
Okay,
Try to keep
we've
together.
been meeting once a month,
Back in-
and I feel like that's good.
Yes,
You feel like,
I think
these
that's
people are
helpful.
meeting like all the time.
And
and
raise 40 grand to go to Cooperstown next year.
There
Something.
you go.
Do you feel like a smaller, you meet with Brian and Arthur in between or not, or what? You coordinate?
Arthur and I meet weekly and trash and recycling is
Okay.
a constant on our agenda, so
Okay.
we are talking.
But we also want to help you, so you don't have to do all the work. Some of the work you have to do because we're no good at it, but the work that we can help you do. we
The
will
committee,
do.
the committee drives the discussion and
Okay.
components of the contract that you're looking for me to put into place. So
Okay.
for me, the biggest thing is to provide a scope of services. So what is it that you would like from the contract? With that, then I can do my job,
Okay.
because
So-
I'm not allowed to make the decisions.
No, I know that. So would you gonna provide all of us a copy of the scope that Topsfield used as an example?
Yes, Brian had provided me that, so. I'll
Okay.
The idea
provide-
is she's gonna provide us with the scope of work from a variety, maybe 2 or 3 different towns tops.
Yeah,
We're going to, the next meeting, try to narrow that scope of work down to the ones
Right.
that are most beneficial to Groveland. And
okay,
this gives Rebecca the roadmap now and the license to go out and do her job. Until that point, she's stuck in neutral because we
Okay.
haven't given her the roadmap on this is where we want to go.
right. No, I understand that. So does everybody feel that we're ready to start doing this? I mean, we've already, the recycling now is check the box, right?
I
Except
think,
for how often-
personally, I think we beat this thing like a dead horse to ad nauseum. I think we're definitely ready to move on to the next step. Does anybody disagree with me?
No,
Let's do it.
I'd like to.
Okay.
In regards to the recycling, I do have 2 questions, so I don't know if there's time for discussion.
Go ahead and do it.
So the only 2 items that we need to follow up on is that we will be working with Rarig for the purchasing of the carts. We will be looking towards a September 1 rollout prior to the winter months. We're trying to do it a little bit sooner, but given ordering and finalizing everything in regards to the parcel count, that's gonna be a little bit more difficult, just because as we know with the actual enforcement of the waste management contract or the policy that we have here in town, we've been finding that there's a lot of duplex and or multifamilies that were not necessarily noted. So now when they get turned away for trash, they call and they say, no, I have a permitted in-law or accessory dwelling unit. And so now we're finding out that there might be some households that look to be a single family, but are not a single family. So that is causing a little bit of back and forth here with our assessor database and the building commissioner. So we're gonna be narrowing that down, and because of that, we don't have a final count that we can give the vendor. That being said, we're still moving forward with a 95 gallon as approved, but they need to know the colors. So it will be something that I bring before the select board because they are ultimately the decision makers. But does the committee have a preference in regards to the cart colors that we would be using? The vendor had recommended a dark green so that they can blend in at the houses and don't look dirty year after year.
I like it.
Like this one?
Something like a dark green.
Darker, isn't it?
What
Or-
about the lid?
So the ones that they had for the standard colored. These ones, so they're not. You know, it's hard to see on the screen, but
Yeah.
the blue, the
the middle
darker.
row.
The middle
Middle
row.
one.
Yeah.
Ooh, I kind of like grasshopper green.
So there's that one, which I would say would be that one.
Grasshopper green.
I'm gonna
Oh,
be
the middle
honest with you, I don't have a preference of what color it is, so,
It's what makes sense with recycle is green.
yeah.
So then the other one is the
The blue's gonna stick out.
Grasshopper
generic
green.
artwork that would be associated with the bin as well. So where it has like recyclables, it has like the generic like symbols as to what it is.
So symbol wise, is anybody in town gonna want like the town symbol? Are we gonna have?
We'll have the town seal on them. They
Okay.
are town barrels. They will
Okay.
stay with the home. So if Stephanie decides that she wants to move out of Groveland,
Out of here.
that bin stays with Stephanie's house. It does not
Okay.
leave. It's
Okay.
not Stephanie's, it's the town.
Okay,
And there'll be a code on it so that we can make sure that we know where those bins are.
okay, so what's the point of all the artwork? Like,
To make sure it looks like it's recycling. I want
It's like
big
recycling only, no
Like-
garbage. I mean, there's different types of artwork that you can put on the barrels.
There's no additional cost, right?
For this, there's no additional cost. The only additional cost would come at it. The only, additional cost would be if we wanted to put something on the lid that would say.
We talked
what
about
you
that.
can Count, what you can recycle and what you can't.
Oh, user's
And
guide.
we didn't budget for that when we went
No.
forward, so that
because
was
that
something.
changes too.
It
right?
does,
Mhm.
depending on
Yeah.
the contract, and we don't know what that is,
Right,
cause
right.
like, to the
Well-
committee's point, you always say we can't do milk, containers, well, and I saw the.
What if you put recyclesmartma.com on there?
I I don't know if that's an option. I think it's like a hot stamp.
Because,
Oh, okay.
but that's how you look it up.
But if that website changes.
Okay, so there's a
It's been
canned,
forever.
there's canned responses there?
It's actually .org. Recyclesmartma.org.
There's one that said recycling only and it had the recycle symbols on the side. It was a big one. I don't care. I'm just.
I'm willing to let the
Yeah.
select board vote, they don't vote on this part.
I would
Well,
recommend.
I think we should show them
Yeah.
what a good idea is.
So then that would be what we were thinking as well, is that, internally staff was that we would go with the dark green and we would go with the recycle only with the recycling symbols.
This one, David?
As long as it shows up on, is it
On
green
the
on
green.
green?
Yeah, it would be in the white.
White on the green.
Yeah.
It would be like
It didn't
the,
have to be a contrasting color.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would be the white on the green.
And you can't add recyclesmartma.org?
I can ask them, but I'm not sure that they can do that. I think, like I said, it's like a hot stamp, so.
Yeah.
But if they
Rebecca, I'm
made it,
positive they could do anything.
It's probably an existing hot stamp that they're
I'm
gonna
sure
stamp
that-
it with, that they'd have to make another stamp for, which they would charge us for.
Mhm.
I can ask. So that's.
because it's the best resource, recyclesmartma.org.
It is on the lid, so instead of having like the detailed list of what you can and cannot recycle, what we said, like the recycling, and that will be on that, and then the seal will be on the side of the
Right.
cart, and it will be the green.
So that will be on the top of the lid?
So it's the lid branding.
And the lids
That's the
are,
lid branding.
Right.
Exactly, so when you, like, if you look on top of the lid,
Yeah.
lids, I believe that they have stuff on top of them, so you can see
Recycling.
that's what will be on top of it,
Recyclesmartma.org?
and I can ask them.
Okay.
And maybe there's a way at some point we can buy a decal or something that we can.
1,000 of them?
Yeah. And you just put it, you just send it out and they can put it underneath on the underside of the lid themselves.
And it could be something that we decide when we also do the trash. So when we
Right.
do the rollout for the trash, maybe there's something that we can do in order to get additional information out there on the recycling containers. So they're gonna have to go, and I'm grateful. I know it's a little backwards with the way we're doing things, but because it will give us a better understanding of how many households we have to service, how many households we need to distribute the carts to, how many households have already communicated with us that that cart's too large, and that type of stuff. So all the data will be very finite when we go through this process, come for the trash. So,
I know.
Can we make an effort to call them recycling carts and not totes? I think it's just causing a lot of confusion.
Who is?
you
they're
know?
used interchangeably. I mean, whatever
Yeah.
we want to do.
But as a committee, and when we talk to the public about it, I think we need to be consistent. Because even at town meeting, somebody's like, well, what's a tote? Because a tote's something you pick up,
right,
which is what we have now. We have a tote or a bin. But this is a cart. So I don't know, what is the company called the things that we're buying? Maybe that would be the best way to go about it.
They call it bins, recycling bins size.
Yeah, but
trash
it's not a bin.
size.
That is.
I thought they called, they were.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think we've been calling them carts.
But at town meeting, it was
Where
called
it calls
totes.
it a cart.
Yeah, when you say 35-gallon cart, people know it's not,
No, but at town meeting, it was classified as totes.
that's because,
So
well,
what I'm saying is,
the article?
yes,
Oh, I didn't.
that's why I'm saying I think it's, if we can make an effort to make it, there's
Okay.
enough confusion out there already without
Yeah.
telling people they're gonna get a tote on September first.
As
They're
long as
getting a
we're not
cart.
buying whatever was
Agreed.
allocated in funds in totes.
No kidding.
For uniform marketing at the advice of the committee.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go.
Grasshopper green.
Yeah, we got to a green thing.
So did the
All right.
committee want to do the grasshopper green? I mean, if that's.
It's a dark green. Nobody else specified.
I couldn't see from here, to be honest with you, what is grasshopper green? I just saw the one in the middle.
Darker green or a brown,
As
Like
long
the-
as
it don't get
as long
dirty.
as it's not like a lime.
It's not lime green, it's dark green.
The brown and the black, but not gonna go well with the salt.
That's the Kelly green, that's that green.
Okay, yeah.
And then the grasshopper green is a little bit more of like
Oh, the one
a
next to
darker
it.
shade.
It's like a forest green.
Doesn't really matter to me. I just don't like the one on the bottom,
The one on the
the
left.
lime green.
That's one.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you can have it.
it's Ryan Reddington green. We don't need that.
And then once we
I
decide
like
on
the one in the
the,
middle row, but I'm willing to defer.
Thank you.
the trash,
That's why you're my favorite.
the trash will
Remember?
change. We'll have a different trash color. So the trash container will be a different color. It's a different size. It'll also be a different color.
Hmm.
So at that point in time, we'll make that determination, but I'll make the
Yeah,
recommendation to
definitely
the
need to be
select board
different.
that we go grasshopper green with the recycle lid. And I will try and confirm whether or not they will allow us to add anything at no additional cost, because we do not have any additional money.
Oh, yeah.
It will delay
Bags.
the rollout of the carts. And then I will update the committee as soon as I have a better understanding of what the select board would like to do, as well as the timeline from Rarig. And then we can begin to market and to educate and to put out social media advisories and advisories in general about what we're doing for the recycling.
As of September 1st.
Correct.
Sounds exciting.
Cascade.
Yes.
What's, how do you spell it?
REHRIG.
Ooh, German. Okay,
Where are these made?
China.
please don't say China.
I know they mention it in their quote.
Yeah, hopefully there's no time.
God.
They say on there somewhere, Bill. Come on.
And we did seek 3 different quotes, so Cascade Part Solutions was one of them. Excuse me, Cascade Engineering as well as Rarig, and then there was one more. I can't think of the company name. And all of them are on the state bid list, but we did solicit 3. It looks like they're made in one of their facilities that they have, so. Cascade has over 13
By Cascade Engineering, Echo Current.
North American
You
facilities.
say it's certified women business enterprise.
Ooh. What?
So they're molding operations, so they have Grand Rapids,
Ooh.
Ohio, North Carolina, Texas, and then Budapest, Hungary. I'd imagine.
Good question, O'Neill, as usual.
Well, I'm just thinking that, I know from a business point with the tariffs and the dollar dropping against the euro, getting killed.
All right, so future meetings,
Freaking killed.
Yes.
if possible, I'd like to avoid second and third Wednesdays of the month.
Okay, let me look. That would probably be the first Monday of June then for me, because I'm away the.
Oh, you want to do Mondays or
And
Wednesdays?
Wednesday, we do Wednesday, because my other team plays Monday.
Is everybody else good with the first Wednesday of the month?
Tuesday,
Any Wednesday of the month.
wait. June.
I can
4th.
try for it.
June
Sometimes
4th.
I have to do childcare.
Well, can you check on it and let us know, because we don't want you to miss.
I can even do Thursdays if anybody wants to move it back an hour.
I can't
That's what
get
you
here
guys
before
can-
5:30 earliest.
What are you thinking, June 4th?
Yes,
At what time?
same time, 6?
I can generally do.
I could probably do 6, I could probably get here by 6:30.
So we could do 6:30. We can do 6:30. I just don't want to go too late. 6:30.
Right, no, I know.
6:30,
Mhm.
the 4th of June?
Right now.
I'm thinking, you know what? By
Yeah,
then
sure.
I'm gonna be in
To get
Canton.
here.
by then.
Yeah, I mean, and I
And I'm really.
generally out by 4, depending on
Jumps into his bag.
day of the week, but
Okay, so June 4th, 6:30. If I forget, can you let Brian know in case he wants to drop by?
So we might have a conflict with the back meeting room. Oh, wait, no, so, all right, the 175th celebration is their meeting in the main meeting. room. So
Yes, we can use this. Right? We like this room.
They're planning a military parade too.
What?
Stop it.
Okay.
be on it and stuff.
Firing minds wanna know.
I'm gonna find that picture of the waste of the cart with all the dialogue on the side about why it's not the same as the one you would, and granted, you pay a lot for those ones at Home Depot. You know, so in the survey, a lot of people said, yeah, I just bought a brand new trash can.
So did I.
Right, so
I just bought a
we
brand
want to
new
make sure
recycle
they
bin.
understand that this particular trash cart is specifically designed to withstand this
Right.
arm thing.
They'll know it after the first time it gets picked up. Because they won't last. Those ones you get from Home Depot, they're just.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they like in their question and answer section of all of their, when they roll these out, they say, can you use another cart? And they absolutely no, they won't pick it up.
Right.
Because,
Has to be standard.
yeah,
Did we talk about all of these things?
what? The agenda thing, yes, we did, because Brian sent,
Did we go
Um,
through the whole handout?
well, the things from Brian are coming to you. What I wanted to know about is the costing, you know how we did the costing and the reduction forward of the cost and the savings?
Yes, yes.
So the only savings that we don't have, what we don't have quantified right now would be weekly recycled pickup versus bi-weekly. They just note that they said significant savings, so I don't understand what that,
There is.
would that be just reflected in the pickup cost, right, Rebecca?
It would be part of the, hauling
Yeah,
cost, so it wouldn't be, it
Right.
would, yeah, it would be part of the.
so I didn't see it quantified anywhere on their charts, but I didn't get to go into everything. But that'd be nice to know. So that when we get responses, we should look to see if that we see a reduction to it because we're asking for bi-weekly on the.
Yeah,
Is that
it
what
would just,
you
like she
mean?
said, it would just be part of the fixed cost. The
Right.
tonnage wouldn't change any because,
No, but the truck doesn't have to go to two places now.
right,
Right, yeah, so that's easy. The full week that they do trash, they just do trash. Boom, boom,
Right.
boom. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it goes back to the whole process of whether or not how many trucks you have on the road, because if it fills up, then you have to figure out that they have to take the time and they have to go to the facility, they have to drop off the waste, and they have to come back.
Mhm.
And that's when things get a little bit more complicated, and there's missed pickups because of the
because
amount of
then.
trash, et cetera.
The incinerator closes too.
And we also right now have dual trucks, so that means we have both recycling and trash in one truck. So even if you do your due diligence and recycle more, you're still gonna cause an issue with the trucks in the process, because now they still have to go and empty the truck.
So if 1 week was just trash pickup, would they send a different kind of truck?
Well, they would have to coordinate that, and that would be part of their contract price, because then they have to figure out how many trucks they have, how many trucks they have allocated in their different communities, how many trucks are allocating to Groveland, and then what the route schedule is. So if it's a recycling week, if it's a trash, so it's all something that, from an operational standpoint, each individual company would take into consideration. So we can ask for it. Some might charge more for it because their facility might be further away than somebody who might be in Boxford or Mellows transfer
You
station.
might charge less.
Exactly.
They,
So
an opportunity to, do two things at once every
Right.
week.
And so the other question I asked Brian today was, I noticed in one of the contracts that the contract specified that the bill for the recycling had to come directly from where the recycling went to. No,
I love it.
no middle pass through.
not all haulers had that, because not all haulers have a
The
recycling
ability.
facility. I know that when we talked to a couple of them, they use waste management. So the cost that we have, they would pass on to us.
Well, I know, it's not about the basic, it was just specified in the contract that the bill for from the recycle center would be a direct flow to the town. It wouldn't
No middle.
first go to the hauler and then the hauler incorporates it.
But we don't have that. Like right now, we have waste management. Waste management has their MERC and their RICA, so we get their direct costs regardless. It's not going to anyone. But
Okay.
other haulers don't have a
Okay.
recycling facility, so it goes
So
through
that's why
them.
they put that
So they
in
either
there.
mark
Oh,
it
I
up,
see what you're
or they
saying.
give it directly to us as a cost. Sometimes they don't mark it up. They just say, this is what you have to pay, because that's what we
Okay,
have.
so is that something that should be in the specs?
You could potentially rule out vendors by doing such, because they don't have the
Right.
capabilities, and that
Could it be a question?
Limit our.
Well, rather than
options.
demanding it, could you ask,
vendors.
would you be able to
Substantially.
provide this number?
Because you only have
Or
a couple that have
is there
that
a question to
capability.
ask them, do you have your own? Like, I'd like to know what's going on.
Or
with
if you
those.
don't have your own recycling facility, can we get the bill directly from?
So I think the biggest thing for us is not necessarily the facility itself, is whether or not they'll do an audit of the composition of the actual,
Correct.
of the actual material. So that's
That's more
what
important.
we
to
have
you.
in our draft proposal, because we think that that would be beneficial for us, and some of them have said that we won't do an audit, and,
Oh, so eliminate audit?
well, no, that we would require an audit.
Right.
Okay, and I know that.
So we know what the composition is. So like, for example,
Oh,
in our waste management contract, we have like 17% of composition would be glass. Glass is very expensive to dispose of. There's no rebate for that. There's a charge. So if they're saying that automatically, no matter what it is, 17% is glass, we're getting a charge based on the tonnage that we're submitting. So we don't even, when we challenge that, they say, well, no, that's what your composition audit is. And we're saying, well, composition is, we want to audit that. And they said, well, no. So, but is that a true reflection? It could be more glass, it could hurt us, but it could be less, and we could be paying for something that we're not disposing of.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter what you're doing at your household when you're recycling, if we're not getting an opportunity to
Mhm.
challenge what it is that
Mhm.
the composition and the material.
So-
Okay.
So that's why some towns are initiating, and I don't think there's that many, they're doing something like a clean glass collection outside of recycling.
Because of the cost of glass, correct. They're trying to find alternative ways to recycle glass because of the price.
Oh, this is why they need to increase the return. What's that called? Bottle.
All deposit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the only glass, there's all the jars and everything, that spaghetti sauce,
Sure.
and everything comes in. There's a lot of things that come in glass.
We don't have the plants anymore. Didn't we used to have a plant? Recycling glass plant in Massachusetts and it closed.
I know you sent over that study about using the glass for different not beaches, but for like
Yeah, right.
materials. and-
Brian talked about that. It is COA.
I'm not sure if there's.
I saw some article on
A facility.
Yeah. So that's a futurist looking thing, that's not for the bullets.
Yeah, but at the same time, doing a composition audit would be helpful to keep us honest in terms of what we're doing and to encourage our residents to recycle more, because at the current time, whatever you recycle, it doesn't matter. The composition audit's already set.
Okay, so we're positive though that you can put the greasy pizza box
Yes.
in the recycle bin. This can be our new push, we can get T-shirts made, because I know people, they look at the box and
Pizza
go,
box.
gotta go in the trash.
We have to
I do.
look at like if.
Just no food, it says. Oops.
Everybody always told me if the pizza
Crap.
box was too greasy, if you left the pizza too long,
If it's super greasy, then no.
Empty, no food.
well, how greasy do you get?
It's soaked through.
Look at, here's a picture.
If it's just a little
Recycleonly.org.
Was
No
it-
food.
And that's an okay box?
That's okay. Recycle. Put this item in your recycle bin, right there.
Okay, we'll get T-shirts made with the pizza box spot on.
The other thing I think we have to think about with the
Okay.
every other week recycling, if it doesn't really save us money, it's gonna be an aggravation for people. You have to remember, is this the week for recycling? And also,
I always just look down.
you can only fill it up every 2 weeks, you're gonna be recycling less.
Well,
So I mean, there's other offsets with
I
that,
mean, if it's no savings, then.
right?
Current contract, there is no savings.
Right.
Future contract, there very well could be a
Oh,
change.
yeah.
Because we're not going to automate it as of July 1. We keep our current contract. That
Right.
means same rate, same everything. Nothing is changing as of July 1. The only thing that's gonna be changing is we're gonna be giving people a heavy duty recycling tote, a cart, and that's gonna be in September.
I think both Boxford and Topsfield. went
I'm
to
just
the
saying,
box.
there's more than one thing to think about with the,
But it's
every
think
other
about,
week.
for some people, you know, hauling down the 2 carts every week, and 1 week you only have to do
What
one.
is this contract?
no, I know, but
That's kind of-
but there's also that
Oh,
You
this
only-
next year.
you can't fill it every week.
That's the one from
It's
top.
gonna
Well,
take-
yeah, but
You-
Rebecca said,
you might be recycling less,
she's saying the town could get, a cart,
just for cardboard.
yeah, and it would have a slot, because mainly that's the stuff that fills up the cart, is the cardboard.
And also it's worth a lot of money.
I'm just saying, there's more, there's different aspects to this that we have to think about, that's all.
Okay,
Well, we can make it easier for the bi-week.
Maybe it won't, you know, if it
Figure out-
saves us money, that, I mean, that's the biggest
it
consideration.
saves us money, and if
Yeah.
it's not as much, you don't have to
We're not
drive
really
both
sure
barrels
yet.
out, you get a week off from one barrel.
From a business perspective, if I only have to pick up that every other week, I'm gonna save you a
I
lot.
mean, it could be something like if
We
it's
have to
an
look into-
even,
That's the figure we don't have yet, we don't have
Week.
that figure yet.
Yeah.
I just look down.
and you have an even house.
There's always one person that knows it all, and just look down the road and see who they are.
These requests for.
It's your agenda,
So you
then.
send them out to go ahead and get a price for bi-weekly versus weekly, so you'll get 2 responses back. Or just-
That's not how this is gonna work. I
One
think what we're trying to do here is give her the roadmap with, this is what we wanna do. And then have them come back to us and say, we can do this is the cost, we can do this, for this, the cost, we can't do this. And then begin to weed out which contractor works best for us at a cost we can manage the best.
But
And
we're
then
just
it's up to
advisors.
them to negotiate that contract. We're just trying to refine the process to such a point where it's granular, so they can just pick up the baton and run with it at that point, I think.
But in order to support this, I think the select board will have to approve.
So, yes, the
Yes,
select board,
mhm.
so the recommendation for such scope of work or
Right.
statement of work should be recommended by the trash and recycling committee in its advisory capacity. And the
Right.
select board should ultimately be
Right.
the decision maker as to whether or not they agree. And will they advise me to move in
Right.
that direction?
And that's where use of Brian's materials that he put together for us shows us specific to Groveland what the different paths will do of savings and non-savings wise.
So it
'Cause they-
becomes it becomes an easy metric at that point.
Right, and then we have the chart with all the other towns, and Rebecca, you want to check with them, make sure they don't mind if we steal their chart.
Yeah, of course.
Because I mean, it seems very current and it has, I don't think there's a single town around that's missing, right?
I don't believe so. And
Okay.
like David mentioned, and I'm sure that.
Where did you find that?
Brian worked on it with them.
It's on that Topsfield site, it was just under,
So I have the scope of work for
Additional.
Topsfield that was put forward for their original review process, and I also have the chart.
Under quick links, okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then I'll include, Brian's,
yes, and
Yeah.
when I find a picture of the trash cart with a little dialogue about how wonderful it is, I'll send that to you. I found it somewhere, I thought, this is impressive, it says, well, you can't just go out to Home Depot and buy the same thing. Yeah. They're designed to last for like 10 years.
It better last. I've had my cart from Newburyport for 25 years, so. I mean, my bin,
What, these
tote,
carts you mean?
whatever that little blue thing is,
I don't know.
Cards, you mean? That's
the little tote
I-
thing.
Well, yes, we broke them because
The
the
van.
driveway was long, and we was dragging it, you know. It's lasted long enough, and the ones you buy even the ones you pay more to at Home Depot, they don't last forever. If they get knocked down, if the wind comes and somebody's car hits it, that's the end of that car.
first rule of manufacturing, don't manufacture anything that lasts forever.
Out of business.
Put yourself out of business.
So
Planned
I think we've
obsolescence.
concluded everything we need except for minutes.
Oh, yes, let's
Do you
vote
wanna
on
do
the
this again?
April minutes, please.
Yeah.
Did everybody have a chance to look through them?
And help it.
I think the points that you made about introducing a positive with the 96-gallon cart, updating the recycling bin, give people better tools to be better recyclers, cover cars, prevent weather damage and litter. Majority of survey responses reflect people don't have enough space. I thought those were just a highlight.
Okay, so the minutes in order, can I have a motion to accept them?
So
I
moved.
move to accept, or I second, whichever.
Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous.
Saying,
Okay, you're.
I wasn't here.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't here either, so
All right,
I'll
you guys-
abstain.
Wait, do they have to
Oh.
abstain?
Yes,
Yeah.
we weren't here. We can't vote on minutes we weren't here at.
So are we going to allow people to give us back the other parts? If
We
they don't
really
want
had
to
a
accept them?
quorum here.
Quorum is 3.
That's what I said. You barely had a quorum.
You'll just keep us updated on the recycle carts, like if you need us about, you can pick that part you said. Correct. Okay, so.
And what do you want us to? What did you just say about?
I want you to look through Brian's materials. He did what he calls a conservative projection under, I think, 2 scenarios, if you look back at it.
Yeah.
And so we need to pick the scenario. We need to see whether we think we agree with it's a conservative estimate. Costs will probably go up more than that. As probably will too, but, if.
Here's one email. Personal.
As Bartel at Mac.
Okay.
Yeah, it puts it in a
Thank-
frame of cost and everything.
Oh, yeah,
And-
we take his numbers and
Right.
with the
Stay on the
spreadsheet and say what it would be with 7%.
And then we've got to kind of coordinate the card sizes with cost sizes and the reimbursement sizes, right? Because then that goes back to this slideshow that Arthur brought to us.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, those numbers are all still valid, right? More or less?
The card information that, not necessarily with the new quotes, we have lower figures.
Okay,
Ooh.
but the reimbursement to the state is still higher?
Oh, no, I think that the state is the 66. I think it was based on the households. I forget exactly, but I can.
Okay, so because we need to pull that together too. Because when you decide what you want to recommend, you should have a frame of why. What is this going to do? How is this going to be fair and positive? And help the town to move forward into a contract that we can live within for 5 years, right? Which is basically what we want. We want something that we can live with it. And the automated pickup is a no-brainer because every contract that I've looked at
yeah. We're
has said
past that.
that, they talked about it, the summaries talk about it. There's no way out of that.
But you may not want to negotiate a 5-year contract if you can get away with something less due to economic changes
know.
in economics, you might want
A
to.
3-year contract with the option to renew for an additional 2 years.
That's probably a better idea, because if economic conditions change dramatically, it allows you to get out quick and renegotiate at better terms.
Well,
That's what I was thinking.
what if?
The 3-year with the-
Reverse this.
Get rid of one.
And a lot of the stuff later.
Is it possible, like from an,
Term, it just.
when you put it in, if you put in 3 with a, will some people, some haulers not want to make a proposal if they don't want to go for 3, or they try to make it more enticing for us to lock in for 5?
But if we did an RFQ and the feedback was, we're not willing to engage in a conversation unless it's a 5-year contract, then you're gonna get
know
a better
that.
understanding.
Okay.
of what it is.
Okay, so they wouldn't.
You weed out the ones that say no, and
But I mean, that's
they
the.
all say no, you know where you are.
About, if you
Yeah.
do a formal bidding process, you rule out your ability to have those types of conversations and you just take them off the table entirely. Where they
Okay.
could potentially offer you a lower price if you're willing to do something different because their plant's closer. Whereas the other
Okay.
one isn't, but they're willing to give you exactly what you're looking for. But if you do an RP and you say, that's it, sorry, we're done, we can't do, you might, put
Right.
yourself in a.
Restrict our options
Right,
before we have the
but and that
opportunity
also
to
has to be part of our summary.
research them.
Report to the select board, because there was concern at the information night and in the survey about some thought we were not going to get competitive analysis of cost that from different haulers, and that's not at all the case. We're just doing it in a way that gives the town better ability to negotiate.
Yeah, but if I remember, that meeting was so, how should I say? It was so fraught with misinformation. that it
Unfortunately,
Didn't do the public much service, because we had to weed through so much things that were just hearsay and not factual, that
so we start
Took
our
all that
Facebook
time.
page, trash and recycling link Facebook page thing
Ugh.
on the town Facebook.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, well, oh, you mean like
Look
just
at the face.
a section on the town Facebook page?
Yes, a section.
I
and
just
you
want to
click
remind
on it.
everybody though that not everybody is on Facebook.
But I still
Oh,
think it goes back
please.
to what we said earlier. I think Topsfield is a great example about how informative the website
Yeah,
can be
that
when
is
you
really
present the
good.
information in a manner that allows you to view it
Okay.
in a
it's
quick.
clearing.
That's,
Exactly.
yeah, that's so
And
easy.
click to another website if you're looking for more.
And so we could have
information.
that by July, so we don't need to do nothing else right now.
Late July.
Right. not July 1st.
We're just gonna, I know.
I don't think it's our only repository for information.
Well, we. the
We
town-
don't, we link our website and our social media pages for those who are looking
Yes.
to use it on our website.
yes, yeah.
We're also looking at ways of trying to outreach with residents through print form as well, because we know some people don't have the internet or use computers.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we are being mindful of that. It's just, if there's any feedback that we can get in a way to better engage with residents, we obviously want to do that.
do you think we're gonna want? I mean, we'll have many opportunities to talk about this before September 1st rollout, but maybe we'll have to do postcards.
There will be a mailing for this 100%,
Okay, good.
especially with the rolling out of the carts.
Do you want to do another trash talking trash?
We could do something like that. I am working with Brian on our RDP grant to capitalize on additional points so that we could potentially use those funds that we receive for any other printed materials and or outreach associated with recycling carts.
That was a really good newsletter.
And let's just say, there are other committees, and they have names like Waste Streaming Committee and all this other stuff.
Waste streaming committee.
We're the only trash, but it lends to the trash talk, so well.
Yes.
What I would say, is that you're welcome to come back to any meeting, and so are any other residents. And also welcome to come back if you have an idea or information or something that you think we haven't seen yet or don't know. Because
I appreciate it.
we're small, we're just 5 of us, and we're trying to grab as much information as possible. And honestly, we just probably were, 6 months ago, we were overwhelmed. We're just like, my head was blowing. And now it's
Speak for yourself.
starting to, oh, be quiet. I feel like now it's starting to narrow down to, succinct, defined choices and defined costs. And that to me gets us closer to, Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
sure, of course.
So one of the things that I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I'm very new to all of this, is that we're gonna come up with a list of requests. We're gonna send that out for information on costs. But we're not gonna send out a list for requests on, for instance, weekly versus bi-weekly recycling. So we can actually get some insight as to what the difference in cost might be. Why wouldn't we try to get more information so that way the committee can make a more informed choice?
I think that will be one of the requests that we make.
Well, I don't see how the other towns are saying they had significant savings from it if they didn't, they had to do something like that.
Yeah.
I just
I
haven't found
just got the
any,
impression that we were just gonna
No,
come up with a
we-
list and only.
Well,
send
no,
out-
that's
We
what I said.
definitely want to know what the
Right.
cost savings will be for weekly versus bi-weekly, especially when it
So we'll
comes
get-
to recycling.
Well, as people begin to respond to that list, that's when you begin to talk, okay, what does this cost?
right, but we can also reach out to Brian and these other towns and ask them. Why did you say you found significant savings? Where did you, I would think they're in the hauling cost, right? But I haven't seen any comparison in their charts yet, but I haven't been through everything. They have a lot on their website. So it might be faster and more,
I think
for
we want
Rebecca goes to
everything.
hauler meetings.
Yeah, it just
You
makes
might be
sense
able to get it there.
The information from the horse's mouth, the person that's actually gonna give you like the
Right,
get a quote back, right?
Hmm.
Like what would it cost for 35 versus 65, bi-weekly versus weekly,
Right.
so on and so forth.
yeah.
It just makes more
Right.
sense.
No, we do need that. I've said repeatedly, the one piece of information we don't have yet is what's the cost difference to get your recycling picked up weekly versus every other week?
Well, the only reason we don't know that is because we haven't asked anybody. Once we give her the roadmap, then we can start asking those
Right.
questions, get very precise data back.
Yes, you will.
At
Yes.
that point, you begin to refine the
Right,
process
'cause-
very narrowly.
How else do you decide?
I agree, I just
Okay,
got a different impression by listening, but I'm
And
glad
then,
that was.
and then just to make it clear, we talk here as if we're doing this. I think just because we're so vested in it, but we're not, we're advisory. Our whole role is advisory. We can vote everything we want to vote, but it's just, we're voting advisory. And then it goes to the select board.
And the
For a
select board
full,
wants to give you 2 96-gallon trash ones and 1 35-gallon recycle. Guess what? That's what you get.
well, no, we've already, town meeting, the select board and the town meeting already voted on the recycling, so that's
Done.
that's a done deal.
And at that
Yes.
meeting also, they said it is much better to go into contract negotiations by owning your carts.
I think so too.
Otherwise, it gets all this leasing baloney, it gets really
Yeah,
confusing.
yeah, it
So,
does.
They said that was a good move.
Okay, good. So
That's encouraging.
it's very encouraging, and so that will be, and then we'll watch the tonnage during those months as the new larger recycle carts get out and see if we see any noticeable swing. I mean, there is a thought that if you give someone a bigger cart, they fill it.
Mhm.
We tend to, fill the space, and I know when we had smaller recycle cart, if it filled, I would just chuck it in the garbage. You're not supposed to, but the cart was full, right? So hopefully, we'll see that people are using them and they'll get an idea of how sturdy they are, how they should be. Like, I know there are questions on how easy to handle a 96-gallon will be, but think about what's in it. It's not your heavy trash to recycle. So it should be, the wheels should work well. It should be really much better than anything else we've had.
Makes sense.
In
And one of the
town.
proposals that sounded good that I heard earlier, if we're going to bi-week, it saves the town money.
Yeah,
Having a place in town where you can drop off your recycling.
yeah,
Overflow, cardboard versus plastic
yeah,
would be really helpful. I know Georgetown does that with Mellow.
yeah.
Any resident in Georgetown can just go put as much recycling as they want to. And it's no additional cost and it's easy. So
Okay.
if that's something that can be done, that would be.
Well, that would be part of what would be in the specs, that we would like to have them pick up like a town cart that's set up to collect carts.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
It's just an option.
Because the more options you have, the easier it gets. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've kicked this one around the park enough.
Motion to adjourn,
Yeah.
7:50.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Good, and thank you very much for coming and